He's back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes!
The center back, Jacob Glesnes.
He's going for it.
Yes! Oh my goal! What a goal!
And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And after a disappointing draw, the Philadelphia Union moved from first to third in the Eastern Conference. And just reading all those takes, sitting in the parking lot, waiting to leave the stadium. You know, a lot of people were upset. Some people were making excuses. And I'm really not sure, honestly, how you can make excuses and be happy with the way the Philadelphia Union have been playing the last 5 games. Because in my opinion, it's unacceptable. Where, yeah, I get it. The Union have only lost 1 game on the year, but yeah, 4 straight draws. It's not good enough in my opinion. And you know, we'll talk about the Red Bull game. There's so much to be said about that game. We'll talk about the news. We'll talk about the goals, Blunder of the week, and this might be my favorite week, honestly, for Blunder of the week, as we've never had this many chances for Blunder of the week, and to have like 4 or 5 different blunders of the week, it was hard to choose. Okay, well, which one's going to take them all? So, yeah, I'll tell you the ones that were in contention, but then obviously we'll go over the true blunder of the week. I'll go over my star players, and yeah, majority of this episode is for sure going to be talked about what happened in that game against New York Red Bulls. But before we get into that, let's just go straight into the news. So yeah, this is like the first time in a while that we don't have a ton to talk about in regards to the news. We only have 2 talking points for the news. And starting off, it's something I'm sure you guys saw midweek, where a whole bunch of reports came from The Athletic, from other people within MLS, from journalists in Italy, linking Chiellini to LAFC. And the Athletic's reporting, and actually we're recording this podcast on Sunday. And so right before I hopped on to record this podcast, I saw a whole bunch of news articles, newspapers from Italy saying that, yeah, the contract between LAFC and Chiellini is pretty much done. The contract, the Athletics reporting, is going to be through the 2023 season. It's going to pay Chiellini no more than $1.65 million in a TAM contract. They're not going to offer him a DP deal, which, you know, I don't blame them at all, because Chiellini's 37 years old, and you know he has a lot to offer to a team like LAFC, who has struggled in the past. But I don't think Chiellini's worth DP money for sure. You know, reading some reports from people in MLS, they were saying, yeah, well, this makes sense for LAFC because, you know, when playoffs come around, they're going to want an experienced center back in the back leading this team. And what better player to have back there than Chiellini, a guy who's won multiple Serie A titles. He's won Serie B with Juventus, won Serie C when he started out his career, winning the Coppa Italia, the Champions League runners-up with Juventus in the 14-15 season, and also the 16-17 season. Has represented the Italian national team well over 100 times, scoring 8 goals, had 423 appearances with Juventus, scoring 23 goals in the league. And like I mentioned, I mean, he's 37 years old, so I mean, you're definitely not getting a Chiellini in his prime, but if the plan really is for LAFC to play Chiellini in the big games that matter, in the playoffs, then yeah, I think this could be a good deal for a year and a half. I know you got to love the different mechanisms of MLS. I know they said that, I believe it was LAFC held the discovery rights for Chiellini. Vancouver Whitecaps were pushing hard to get Chiellini, but they didn't want to pay LAFC for the discovery rights, so they backed out of the deal, which it's so stupid that we have discovery rights in MLS. I don't know if it was on this podcast or somebody else's podcast that I was on where I was like, man, the Union should say that they discovered Ronaldo, Mbappe, Messi. Like, man, that's just outstanding scouting work by the Union's front office. And you look like, yeah, LAFC discovered this upcoming Italian defender in Chiellini because nobody knows who he is. So it's so stupid that that's a rule in MLS. It's a way for teams, I guess, to get money and gam, but yeah, I hate it. And then the last bit of news I want to talk about is Austin FC have given head coach Josh Wolff a 3-year contract extension. Austin sit in third place in the Western Conference with a record of 6-3-2, 23 goals scored, 4. And yeah, I mean, who expected Austin to be playing the way that they've been playing this season, where last season did not go the way that Austin fans probably would have wanted, where they come into MLS for the first time and they finish the season in 12th place, where they only scored 35 goals last season. Like I said, they're up to 23 goals this season, and we're only 11 games into the season. And to see them sit 6-2-3, I know they lost the other day to Real Salt Lake, but yeah, Austin's definitely been a surprise for me this year, and yeah, it's no surprise to see Josh get a contract extension just because of the turnaround we saw from last season with Austin to how they're playing this season. I mean, it's that whole team looks night and day different, and yeah, Jim Curtin always says, you don't get a feel for the good teams until you're 10 games into the season, and like I mentioned, Austin, they sit in third place in the Western Conference, and you got to imagine if they keep up this form, yeah, they're for sure getting to the playoffs this season, and the fans would definitely love that. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this Philadelphia Union versus New York Red Bulls game. As we all know, that game ended 1-1, and in my opinion, and probably yours too, the first half wasn't good enough. Not enough clear-cut chances created by either teams, in my opinion. I think both teams were probably trying to feel each other out, and we're probably happy going into the half tied. The Union didn't get Daniel Gazdag involved enough in the first half. They didn't try to get Sergio Santos involved by running down the channels, playing those balls into the channels, stretching the back line of the Red Bulls. I didn't think that, it just wasn't good attacking wise. And yeah, we know that the Union have had success in the attack with Daniel Gazdag and Julian Kranza. And then without those two, their attack hasn't really looked that great. But I think the one thing that stood out to me the most about the first half is, and later throughout this game, is that the Red Bulls were pressuring the Union better. That their pressing cues were on point all night. They were faster to the ball. It's like now they always had two people pressing the ball every single time. And it's like, you didn't see one guy go, then a second time. No, both of those players went at the same exact time, and they cornered Union players into tight spaces, into a tight angle. And they were forcing turnovers, forcing the Union to have a weak pass, to get the ball dispossessed off their foot. And so I was just really, really impressed with the way that the Red Bulls press, which I think we all know that that's how the Red Bulls play, but to see it in person, again, I mean, I know we see it all the time, but I don't know. I think the way that the Red Bulls pressed Saturday night was a better press than what we saw in the playoffs in November or October. Yeah, one of those months when we play them. November, I think. But yeah, regardless, I mean, Red Bulls just look so much better in the press, and it all started with their midfielders, and I got to give a shout out to Stefano Fusaro when he was on the podcast midweek previewing this Red Bulls game with me. He was just highlighting the depth that the Red Bulls have in midfield, and it was very evident during this match that, yeah, it didn't matter. They substituted a ton of midfielders out of this game. It's like the players that they started, they gave 110% effort. And then when they couldn't press anymore, then they brought in players off the bench. And like it didn't look any different at all when they brought in the substitutes. And the Union, they definitely did struggle with that a little bit. And I think when you look at it, the second half couldn't have started any better for the Union with the give and go between Sergio Santos and Daniel Gazdag. And I know fans haven't been too high on Sergio lately, but this game he worked his butt off, combined well with his teammates. He just lacks any confidence in his shooting ability. And there were moments in this game where, yes, Sergio should have shot instead of passing the ball, but it was either the last episode or 2 episodes ago when I was doing a review episode where, yeah, I said that the communication between Sergio and his teammates were off. The link up play was off, and it was not off in this game. But uh, there was definitely situations where Sergio Santos should have had shots in this game instead of passes. Yes, his IQ looked better than it had in games prior. He knew where his teammates were going to be, and you saw that no better examples than when him and Daniel Gazdag combined to score that goal. But you go ahead and you look where the Union had a chance in the 59th minute to score, where Daniel Gazdag played a beautiful ball over the top for Sergio, and his touch kind of let him down. And he was still able to pass the ball to Julian Kranza, who had his shot blocked by a New York Red Bull defender. But that sequence there in the 59th minute, the Union had 5 shots there and didn't score a goal. When in reality, they definitely should have scored a goal. I mean, Cornell was out of the goal when Sergio passed the ball to Julian Kranza, and a New York Red Bull player was on the line and blocked the shot. And from where I was sitting, it looked like a handball. It looked like there was 2 handballs in the box, but what I guess we didn't know on the field was that MLS was having a look at VAR to see if there was a handball. And watching the replay of this game this afternoon, JP and Danny said, yeah, VAR said there was no handball in the box. So they told Cornell, all right, goal kick, no handball. But, you've got to put one of those shots in the back of the net. I mean, 5 shots there. Cornell's out of the goal. It's that could have and should have put the Union up 2-0. And if you go up 2-0 now, to the Red Bulls' credit, they didn't sit back at all. Even when they went down to 10 men, they stuck to their game plan, which I applaud Red Bulls for that. But if the Union would have went up 2-0, then Red Bulls would have pushed more men forward to try to get back into this game, which then means that the Union would have been able to hit Red Bulls on the counterattack and then maybe get a 3rd and 4th goal. But it didn't happen at all because the Red Bulls defended well and did a phenomenal job protecting that 1-0 lead. But yeah, like we was talking about, Sergio Santos, his touch letting him down, and only Mikel and Julian Kranza, those are the only 2 strikers, and Daniel Gazlag's touch seems to have gotten better from last year to this year. But out of Koiberg and Sergio Santos, both of those guys don't have a great first touch. Kasper Schwelke was getting slammed last year, and that's something that I wanted Kasper to improve upon last year was his first touch. It wasn't great. And Daniel Gazdag, like I mentioned, played a beautiful ball over the top to Sergio Santos. He got in behind the Red Bulls back line, but his touch lets him down. And so he has to take the ball farther out left. Cornell comes out to try to collect the ball, and because Sergio has enough pace, he's able to get around Cornell, but he doesn't get the assist because the Red Bull player blocks Julian Kranza's shot. You go ahead and look. Jose Martinez, right after this whole situation, Jose Martinez misses the next game because of too many yellow cards, which, in my opinion, is going to be a huge blow for the Union against a Miami team that's been struggling. I think they won 4 games in a row in all competition, and now they're on a 3-game winless streak, I believe it is, in MLS. I know they won their Open Cup game, but Yeah, I mean, this is a team in Miami where you should beat, but we all know what happened last year when Miami came to town at the beginning of the season and we lost that game 2-1. So could that be the case again? I think it very much so can be the case, especially with Julian Kranza going to miss the game against Inter Miami because of the loan agreement. Loan players can't play against their parent clubs. So it's going to be a huge blow for the Union not having Julian Kranza in this game. Hopefully, Mikel Ua will be available because I don't feel confident at all starting Sergio Santos and Corey Burke. Now, I guess it's very possible the Union could go to a Christmas tree formation where at least you have one striker on the bench where you can do a like for like switch instead of putting Quinn Sullivan up top or trying to play Daniel Gazdag up top. So it will be interesting this Wednesday to see how the Union line up against Inter Miami. But going back to this Red Bull game, the Union and I know I completely skipped over the red card and everything was the right call. It was definitely a second yellow card. Shout out to the fourth referee for having a clear view on this, telling the referee, "Hey, look, this is a yellow card worthy play." He stepped on Sergio Santos's ankle, and because Dylan Nealis was on a yellow card already, it's a second yellow card and he gets a red card. But look, once Red Bull went down to 10 men, I mean, they were the better team the rest of the game, and some fans might not want to admit that, but it's a huge issue because we've seen this in years prior. You know, the Union going back to last year, 2-2-3, when they're up a man. And Jim Curtin was asked about that. Well, you guys don't have a great record when you guys are up a man. And this is what Jim had to say about that stat.
Those are stats that get thrown out when you don't get results, for sure, and I respect that. So the context of that, though, how long were we up? Were we up a man for a while? Were we on the road? Were we home? Those things. I can't remember our last 5 red cards, but we can certainly be better when we're up a man. Strategy does shift, especially at home. We kind of tweaked the formation a little bit and had Olivier go higher. Didn't work tonight. He had a couple good opportunities to make a play and just came up a little bit short. So, when you go up a man, oftentimes a team like Red Bull who's good defensively, they're comfortable with that. They're comfortable not having the ball. So you're trying to pull them out. I still think we created enough chances on the night and just weren't good enough and sharp enough in front of goal. So, yeah, we can definitely improve, though, when you go up a man. But the context with that stat, I'd love to know, because sometimes it's if you get a red card in the 75th minute or the 10th minute, it's a big difference. So I can't recall every instance we've had where we're up a man.
Yeah, and so to Jim's credit, Chicago and New York City were the only games that they were up a man for a majority of the game. But regardless, the Union have to find ways to beat teams when they sit men behind the ball when they're down to 10 men. And I know New York Red Bulls didn't do that in this game. So again, just credit to them for continuing to play to their game plan, even though they went down a man. But we've seen plenty of times where even when teams are playing 11v11, they're sitting 8-9 players behind the ball, packing it in. And the Union struggle to break teams down that way. And could Inter Miami come in here Wednesday on short rest and do that? Yes, they could. And I kind of expect that a little bit too, because we saw when Red Bulls went down a man in this game, the Union had majority of the possession of this ball. And we know when the Union have to have the ball, make things happen with the ball, more times than not, they're not going to make anything happen. And it's exactly what happened against Red Bull. Corey Burke, I know a lot of people, including myself, have been giving him crap the last couple games. And you got to give credit where it's due. He had 2 really good chances in this game. He was unlucky not to have scored one of those, a header, and then he does a good job to peel off to the left of a New York Red Bull defender and get a shot off. Cornell makes a good save, but other than that, as soon as Corey Burke gets substituted in, showed no hustle when he first came into the match, was just walking around, not pressuring the ball, and it's not good enough. And I know Jim says it all the time that, there's going to be a couple games wherein Sergio Santos is hot, when Corey Burke's hot, and we're gonna ride those waves. But I don't know. I have more confidence in Sergio Santos than I do Corey Burke. And like I said, I mean, you got to credit him. He had two really good opportunities last night against Red Bull. Unlucky not to have put the ball in the back of the net, but I just can't. When you're subbing on a player that shows no hustle as soon as they come onto the field, when they look like they have no clue what's going on, how can you defend that? How can you keep throwing that type of player out there? And I don't know. Maybe when Mikhail Uhre is finally healthy, maybe we just go to a two striker bench instead of three. Maybe Corey Burke's going to be the player that misses out. Who knows? And then he plays games with you too. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot Jim can do with this team, but I think the one thing that's really obvious is that if Dinner Gazdag and Julian Kranzer aren't clicking, that this team has a major attacking problem. And yeah, you want to put Mikhail Uhre in that mix where you can rely on him, but unfortunately you can't rely on him because of his injury with his quad. And when he has played, he's only scored one goal. And I know I've seen some people on social media say, "Oh, he's a flop and everything." And I'm not going to say that. Just like I gave Daniel Gazdag a whole year, a half a year to adjust to MLS, I'm going to do the same thing for Mikhail Uhre. Whatever he gives this year, is going to be a plus. And then next year is when we can start judging him. The number one important thing is to get him 100% healthy. Yes, Jim Curtin talks about rushing him too fast because this is the player that you paid the most money for, your big DP striker, a player that fans have been waiting for ever since the club was announced, and you rush him in there and he gets hurt. So, yeah, I hope that he's available against Miami, but don't rush it and force the injury to be even longer. I thought the substitution for Bizer for Harriel was the right decision as we were getting space on the right side, and Bizer's more of an attacking player than Nate is. I know when Bizer got an opportunity to cross the ball and he mishit that cross terribly. Maybe the game was a little bit too fast for him. He couldn't adjust to the pace, even though, again, that Red Bull were down 10 men. And to credit to the Red Bulls for the way that they played against the Union. I know a lot of fans were mad about Bizo coming in for Harriel. I know on paper it looks like it's a like for like, but Jim went to three in the back there. They 100% tweaked their lineup and went Glesnes, Elliott, and Wagner. When they would push both of their fullbacks up, they would drop Martinez in to make it a back three. And unfortunately, the substitution bringing on Olivier, it didn't work out for the Union, but I thought that was 100% the correct decision. I understood the decision, even though, fans on social media were giving it to Jim for making it. But, I thought it was the right call by Jim, and unfortunately, it didn't work out. But the last thing I'll say about this game is, I know I said it last episode when I did a review, when I did a preview with Stefano. It is a major problem that the Union have blown leads in 5 games now, and that's 6 leads total in those 5 games. They blew the lead twice in LA. The Union are creating chances. They're just not putting the ball in the back of the net. And like I said, when Crowns or when guys aren't clicking, then the Union are going to have a bigger problem on the hands than what they currently have. Because if you look at the last 5 games, they're averaging 1.2 goals per game and an XG of 1.6 per 90 minutes. So they're creating the chances. Yes, the goalkeepers are making good saves, but the Union have to do a better job of placing the ball. They aren't testing goalkeepers enough. And that combination play between Daniel Gazdag and Sergio Santos, that's what you want more of. And the Union have to find ways to build on the lead because they had opportunities, like we talked about, to go up 2-0, and they didn't take it. And because of that, it allowed Red Bulls to come right back into this game. And at the end of the day, a draw was probably what was the most deserved between both of these teams. Again, talked about it with Stefano, where the last 5 games, now 6 games, neither team had scored more than 1 goal. And it's exactly what happened last night. Both teams scored 1 goal apiece. So it's an issue. It's not time to go into total meltdown mode, even though I think some people are going into that. I am not happy with the way that the Union are playing. I'm not going to make any excuses and say, yeah, everything's fine, because everything isn't fine. I mean, I gave stats, I gave why things aren't okay. And we are starting to see a trend here where it's, yeah, to the Union's credit, they're scoring the first goal, but they're not finding ways to build on the lead. And until they start to find ways to do that, I'm not going to stop talking about that stat. And yeah, hopefully more and more fans talk about this, realize this on social media. Like I said, hopefully people aren't going into full meltdown mode, but yeah, it's starting to become a bad trend. But let's go ahead and look at my keys to the game. So number one, I said you got to build on the lead. Uh, I don't even have to say anything about that. That's a fail. Number two, you got to win the midfield battle. I said again, another fail. There was more tackles, more pressures in the midfield from the Red Bulls, and especially when they went down to 10 men. I mean, you cannot get worked by a team that is down a man. And that's exactly what the Red Bulls did. And I'll keep giving the Red Bulls credit because they wanted this more than the Union, it seemed like. So many teams you see sit back when they go down a man, when they tie the game up. But the Red Bulls didn't. They kept pushing, pushing, pushing. And Daniel Gazdag talked about it after the game, where he said, we stuck to our game plan, where we were playing the Red Bulls when they went down to 10 men. We played them the way we were playing them in the first half, where we were playing these fast passes, where we were trying to play quick transition ball, where in all reality, we should have taken time with the ball. And they didn't do that. And I think part of that is because the Union aren't totally comfortable controlling the game, having possession of this ball. And, when you keep doing the same old, results aren't going to change. And I'm not saying change your formation or anything like that. I have no problem with the way that the Union are playing this quick transition soccer, but they got to find ways to build on the leads. And again, I know I said it like 2 minutes ago. I'm not going to stop talking about that until the Union correct the issue. And then number three, you got to find ways to get in behind. In the first half, they definitely didn't do that. In the second half, they definitely did. That's a pass. They took advantage of Sergio Santos' speed in the second half. Like I mentioned earlier when I was just going over my overall thoughts, I talked about a play that Daniel Gazdag played over the top for Sergio. So, yeah, second half was a lot better than the first half for the Union, trying to get in behind. But, yeah, overall, they should have been doing that in the first half. And so, yeah, those three keys, 2 out of 3 of those were fails. And that's why the Union didn't get all 3 points. If we go ahead and look at my 3-star players, again, not much to this. Daniel Gazdag added the goal we all know, and then his combination play with Sergio Santos. Yeah, I feel bad that I keep repeating myself, but yeah, that was good. The combination with Sergio, finding the runs that Sergio was making. What more do you want from Daniel Gazdag? He's playing out of his mind right now. Ton of good line splitting passes. Number 2 on that list, Kai Wagner. 43 out of 52 accurate passes, 7 out of 9 on long balls, 1 for 1 on tackles, 3 out of 5 ground duels won, 3 out of 4 aerials won, 3 interceptions, 4 key passes. I mean, Daniel Gazdag and Kai Wagner are our most creative players. And Kai Wagner continues to create plays with his crosses. And when the summertime rolls around, I think Kai is 100% gone. I mean, the form that we've seen Kai in this season is the best that we've ever seen Kai play. I mean, defensively, offensively, his crosses keep getting better and better. And I was on a podcast during the week. I'm not going to go ahead and give the podcast's name away because I don't think the person has announced his podcast yet. And so I'll let him do the big announcement. But we were talking after the podcast about, do we think Kai Wagner's gone? He doesn't think Kai's gone in the summertime. I 100% think that Kai's gone. And so I was joking, and I was looking up. Kai's wife's name is Jenny. And for you guys out there that aren't familiar, her brother is a professional soccer player. He's a striker. His name's Pierre Michael Lasaga. I joked with him and I said, this is the perfect guy to bring in to replace Corey Burke. Pierre is only 30 years old, has represented the German national team at the youth level. He's playing in Qatar right now, and on transfer market, I believe his market value is only like $300,000. Like, you want to keep Kai Wagner here? You bring Jenny's brother over here, make her happier because I'm sure she's happy in America. But it's like, man, if your brother's coming to play on the same team as your husband, how can you say, oh yeah, let's leave Kai, let's go back home? Because I know that Kai said in the past that, him and his wife want to be closer to their family. They want to go back to Europe. But I don't know. I feel like that would be very tempting to keep Jenny and Kai here if Ernst went out and signed Jenny's brother and said, all right, Corey, we're going to let you go. And Pierre's our third or fourth striker, and he gives you a lot more to offer than Corey Burke. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty funny. I was like, yeah, I totally forgot that Jenny's brother is a professional soccer player. And yeah, I thought he was a lot older than what he is. And to see that he's only 30, and I thought he was still playing in Germany for whatever reason. Then I saw that he was playing in Qatar. I'm like, yeah, I don't even care if this guy is not that great. He's probably better than Corey Burke. So let's go ahead and keep Jenny and Kai happy so Kai Wagner can stay with the Union. And then my third star player is Sergio Santos. Had the assist, good combination play. I already talked about what I liked from Sergio Santos and what he could have done better during the game against the Red Bulls. But let's go ahead and talk about the two goals. So we'll start with the Union's goal. So this comes from a pass from Jose Martinez, who does well to get past the pressure from the New York Red Bulls, plays a long ball over the top. It was intended for Julian Carranza, but the Red Bulls knocked the ball down. And the problem with this is the two midfielders that Yearwood and Amira should have shut down Daniel Gazlag. Well, they were behind Daniel Gazlag, so Daniel Gazlag had no pressure. The ball falls to him. He's able to take a great first touch, and he has one center back going to try to close him down, take away his passing angle, and the defender does well to take away that splitting pass. Sergio Santos peels a little bit back. Daniel Gazdag sees that, passes the ball quickly to Sergio Santos, and as soon as Daniel Gazdag passes the ball to Sergio Santos is going to one-touch this ball to Daniel Gazdag, a beautiful give and go. But it's like, as soon as Daniel Gazdag passes the ball, he's going full sprint, has good movement around the two center backs for New York Red Bulls, and just a beautiful finish. I mean, what more? I mean, it was just a fantastic give and go. Not much to break down here. I mean, just your typical give and go, and just great communication between Daniel Gazdag and Sergio Santos. It wasn't a lot for the Union to build up to this play. Like I said, it was just a long ball from Jose Martinez that gets knocked down by New York Red Bulls. They don't do a good job clearing the ball, and it falls to Daniel Gazdag. And yeah, I mean, it's nothing much to it. But then you go ahead and look at the goal that New York Red Bulls score. Yeah, really disappointing on this play because Jose Martinez gets the yellow card, and then the New York Red Bulls go to a fast restart. And so you go ahead and look. Liam Flock, I think, could have done a little bit better trying to shut down this ball. The ball goes to Frankie Amira, who does a good job to combine with Lahinius. He gets the ball back, plays the ball out wide to Cameron Harper, who does a great job just to one-touch cross this into the box. Kai Wagner, there's nothing he could have done to try to stop this cross from going into the box. Jack Elliott was caught out of position because he was stepping to the ball. So Jack Elliott, in my opinion, had the right play on this. But the issue is, I think Jacob Glesnes could have slotted over a little bit to help Jose Martinez out, who was beat by the run by Lahinias. And a beautiful cross. And by the time that the ball comes in, just Jose Martinez is just completely beat. Jacob Glesnes is just too far out to shut this down. It's a great one-time finish from Lajinos, who does well to just hit the ball over Andre Blake, and there's nothing Blake could have done there. So, yeah, I mean, if Jacob Glesnes could have shut down that a little bit faster, if Jack Elliott didn't have to step to the ball, then that wouldn't have happened. But that exact play, how Red Bull scored the goal, they've done that play a couple times in the game already, and it finally worked out for them. And it so happened to be when they were down 10 men. And yeah, so nothing else to say about these two goals. And like I said, just a whole bunch of topics to talk about for Blunder of the Week. So either one of these could have won Blunder of the Week. And so my three that were the runner-ups were a DC United supporter alleged that they had their tire sliced at an Inter Miami game on Saturday. And I was like, okay, that's not great. And then the same supporter that said that he had his tire sliced was saying that Inter Miami fans were fighting with him. And so I'm like, yeah, that's definitely got to be up there for Blunder of the Week. And then I wanted to give it to Robbie Robinson when he put Jack Dengler into a headlock during Inter Miami's U.S. Open Cup game, where both players, Jack and Robbie, got red cards. And I was like, okay, this is probably going to be Blunder of the Week. And then, I don't know, I think this was on like Wednesday or Thursday or something. Reports came out from ESPN that Brazilian defender Marcelo, no, not the Real Madrid left back, but center back Marcelo, was dropped in August from Lyon's first team due to continuous farting and laughing in the locker room. And Lyon just had enough of that situation where they banned him from the first team and then eventually released him in January. And that definitely would have got Blunder of the Week if this whole situation wouldn't have happened in August. But it wasn't until now that we found out why he was removed from the first team. But Blunder of the Week is going to go to Fanatics for sending a Bayern Munich kit to an Atlanta United fan who ordered Atlanta's mint kit. And what makes this worse is Fanatics responded back and said, "It looks great. I hope you enjoy it." Like, they didn't even realize the mistake that they made. And later on, Fanatics, I think, were just getting destroyed on Twitter, so they deleted the comment. And I mean, it's Fanatics. There's been so many complaints, and it sucks that the NFL, MLB, NBA, MLS, everybody uses Fanatics. And it's like time and time again, they continue to mess up. The material that they use to make shirts, I mean, none of that stuff's great material, in my opinion. None of the merchandise is, special. I feel like it's all generic for all the teams. And to see them say, yeah, this kit, it looks great. I hope you enjoy it. When this dude didn't even order a Bayern Munich kit and they sent the Bayern Munich kit. Didn't even realize their mistake until fans just started letting them have it on social media. That's going to get Blunder of the Week. But maybe you think one of the other three choices were better Blunder of the Week candidates. But yeah, Fanatics. Whenever we can bust on them, I think that's always a win. But if you aren't following the podcast on social media, follow @FreeKickPod, wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick. And yeah, I just brought back the website. If anybody knows somebody that can create a website on WordPress, yeah, hit me up and we can talk about potentially getting a website set up on WordPress. But I changed the website's website from thefreekickpodcast.com. Now it's thefreekick.net. I don't know, I thought it sounded more professional. And so that's what we're going to go with. And yeah, if anybody out there is good at making websites where they can make it easier for me to write articles and it's easier to add pictures, a lot easier than Squarespace, yeah, that would be a win in my book. So yeah, check out the website once it finally gets activated online. And 4 followers away from 1,000, I believe, on Twitter. So we're getting there. But we'll see about having somebody on for Inter Miami. Talking to the PR department at Inter Miami, and they said they're going to try to get one of the commentators on the podcast, but because it's such a quick turnaround. We're not sure that it's going to be possible, but it's a lot better of a response that I got from Inter Miami than I did from Nashville. So even if I don't get anybody on for a preview episode, it's a lot better look that they gave me than Nashville. So that's all I'll say there. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.